Baby, you know what Fridays in the fall means? High school football, baby, or just football in general. Welcome into ARC's PDX Sports, good people. Tyree Smith here with you. And baby, we got a show for you folks. Tons of college football, a little bit of cheer, drama in the NFL, but first, it's College World time. Oregon, they're going to start the season against Montana State. 1 p.m. kick tomorrow. Ducks with a lot of new faces in starting roles. That's including the QB. And to help me talk about this, first-time guest on My Friend First, co-host of the West Coast Bias and Prep Redzone reporter Andrew Nemac. Andrew, thank you for joining us for the first time on ARC's PDX Sports, and this will not be the last time you see Andrew. This is going to be something we have on consistently during the fall this season. So, Andrew, welcome into ARC's PDX Sports, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about it.
No, man, I appreciate you, and I know you're excited about this season overall because we already know 2025 brings a lot of new elements, especially with the college football land. But let's start with the Oregon Ducks. Oregon taking on Montana State, but for fans, I feel it's different this year. They don't really know a lot of what's going on with the football team because there's a lot of new faces. So from your experience right now covering the team so far, how do you like Oregon Ducks going into 2025?
They're really good. There's a reason the over-under set at 10.5 in Vegas. They've got a great chance to make the college football playoff. They're an overwhelming favorite to make the college football playoff. They are one of the contending teams. I wouldn't necessarily say they are the top-tier team to win the title, but they're in that tier 2 where they could definitely win a national championship this year, and that seems to be the status quo for Dan Lanning. They're breaking in a new quarterback, a transfer quarterback. Oregon's familiar with that. This guy's name, Dante Moore. We've seen him at UCLA. He's in a system that fits better. He's got all the tools. He's a former 5-star quarterback, projected to be a potential first-round pick, but we haven't seen him yet. And as much as this feels like Oregon's first season, their season opener, it also feels like the unveiling of their next new weapon, and that's Dante Moore, who will be throwing to the Corian Moore, the 5-star freshman, the #1 wide receiver in America last year, a special playmaker. Feels like we're just going to be seeing a lot of new faces, new places with a whole lot of hype.
And you talked about the 5-star freshmen, by people need to understand freshmen, and how much are they going to have to rely on a freshman this season in terms of the receivers, you think?
Well, Evan Stewart is hurt, and that creates some issue. But when you've got a guy like DeCorian Moore, who is as special as he is, you've got a chance to have a wide receiver one from day one. Look at last year's top 2 wide receivers. That's Ohio State's Jeremiah Smith, who's a Heisman favorite this year, would have been a top 5 pick if he were eligible in the NFL draft, and Ryan Williams out of Alabama, who actually was initially part of DeCorian Moore's class. He reclassified, played at Alabama as a 17-year-old, and had over 800 yards and was one of their go-to weapons. If DeCorian Moore can be that guy, if he can be a 800-yard receiver, which is a tall task, and he pairs nicely with Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end. He only had 300 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. He's a projected first-round NFL draft pick. Look for Kenyon Sadiq to be a breakout star this fall and really be special. If the two of them can share the responsibilities of being 1A, 1B as the primary pass catcher with the stable of running backs they have, with the talent of Dante Moore, this could be a very prolific offense behind a rebuilt and very special offensive line.
And even if Dante Moore isn't the let's say Marcus Mariota or Bo Nix, he has to throw for 4,000, whatever yards it may be, he's going to have a good running back. The Tulane transfer and Noah Whittington returning in the backfield as well. What's your thoughts on them?
They have a tremendous amount of depth at running back. And yes, you're right. Mekhi Hughes, really special back, ran for over 1,400 yards last year at Tulane. Poor Tulane. They had a great quarterback who got $3 million a year to go to Duke, and they lost their star running back to Oregon. Noah Whittington comes back. He really looked like he was finally healthy towards the end of last year, recovering from a leg injury the year prior, and he seemed to hit his stride. And so you're looking at a 1-2 punch that could be very special. And, they have a stable of guys. They have a number of really good players. They brought in a couple of freshmen, Jordan Davison, who was at national champion Mater Dei, and De'Aaron Hill. De'Aaron Hill is lights out. People may not know about him yet. It may take a couple years. This is a kid that is a junior, averaged more than 13 yards a carry. As a senior, he averaged almost 17 yards a carry, leading his team to a state title. De'Aaron Hill is a name to watch in the future because I think he's going to be a really good one.
And I know we didn't get a chance to touch on defense yet, but I know the return of Bryce Butcher also and Uyunglele. Those are two top team names that are going to be leading for the Ducks on defense. What's your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I really like Oregon's front seven. They're good at linebacker. They're deep at linebacker, led by Bryce Butcher, who finally seemed to come into his own as a leader of the defense. When you're a walk-on sometimes, even if you're performing like an all-conference guy, you might still be looking around going, I'm next to all these 5 stars. Am I the guy? And he seemed to kind of come into his own towards the end of last year. I think he's more comfortable leading the charge. Mateo Uyunglele had 10.5 sacks last year. He comes back with Tatum Tuioti, who was at Sheldon High School. Tatum Tuioti and Uyunglele might be the best 1-2 punch at edge rusher in the entire Big Ten. The front 7 special, it's going to come down to replacing Derek Harmon at defensive tackle. He leaves as a first-round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they can stop the run, if their transfer, Bear Alexander, can step up and be special, and Amari Washington, who made Bruce Feldman's freaks list as one of the absolute freakiest athletes in all of college football. If those 2 defensive tackles can lead the charge, this front 7 could be really good. And then we get to that secondary, which might be the best of the Dan Lanning era. Nobody's surprised. Dan Lanning's recruiting is far to none, if not the best in the college world. I know this is Tulane. This isn't Tulane, but we're going to talk about a quarterback that has a little maybe beef with Tulane. I don't know how you look at it. Let's talk Malik Murphy and Oregon State. Andrew sticking around after the break. We got to talk about the other team that's getting down. You know, Portland looks even better when there's football on the gridiron and Friday nights. Welcome back in to ARC's PDX Sports. Look at a new graphic, folks. I love that. You said the Ducks are going to play first at 1, but then it's the Beavers' time to shine. Oregon State are hosting Cal tomorrow at Reser Stadium. Start the season at 7:30 p.m. kick. Nice and late. Rejoining me is co-host of the West Coast Bias and Prep Zone reporter Andrew Nemac. Talk a little bit about the Beavs. They got a new quarterback this year, Malik Murphy. Andrew, what's your thoughts on him? Well, I really like Malik Murphy when he's kept clean in the pocket. He's one of the best passers in America, top 10, 12 passer in America when the pocket is clean, when he's not pressured. When the pocket gets muddy, he slides down the list, and he was PFF's number 99 quarterback against pressure. That's going to put a lot of pressure on this offensive line that returns center Van Wells and not much else. If they can protect him, though, Murphy can spin it, and he's got as talented an arm as almost any quarterback Oregon State's had in the last decade or so. He's a really special talent, and he can lead them a long way, but it's going to depend on the trenches.
How much do you think they're going to rely on the run game to help Malik out this season, despite him being the size and what he does for Oregon State?
Well, you love Anthony Hankerson. There's no doubt about it that he's an electric playmaker, and I think he is an emerging playmaker that they can really rely on. Again, though, whether it's the passing attack or the run game, it comes down to your offensive line. And I think if this offensive line, and we'll just say it this way, they will go as far as their offensive line leads them. If their offensive line is solid, they could win 8 or 9 games this year and be balanced, and Malik Murphy could throw it, which sets up Hankerson to have a 1,000-yard season. It's all going to come down to that O-line. And if they do well, look out, because people are going to really feel like Malik Murphy is one of the most talented passers Corvallis has ever seen.
That speaks to this question. What do you see any similarities or compare? Because they're going to play September 20th, Dante Moore, Malik Murphy. How do you see that quarterback matchup looking?
Well, Dante Moore is kind of a different animal. You know, he's a 5-star prospect. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks to come out of high school in the last 3-4 years. He was the National Player of the Year. Dante Moore's raw talent is incredible. He moves well. There's a reason he's a guy who really even hasn't delivered yet, and people still project him as a potential first-round pick. I don't see Malik Murphy, because of the lack of mobility, ever truly being an elite draft prospect. That being said, any given Saturday, Malik Murphy can spin it for 300 and put a dub on the board.
Well, hopefully he spins it for 300 tomorrow. They're going up against a Cal team that you're a little bit familiar with. How should Oregon State fans prepare for this Cal game tomorrow?
I originally thought the spread when I first saw it, it was an old spread, and they said Cal was favored by 10. That was last year, and I went, I think Oregon State's better than Cal. This is a Cal team that is only returning 3 starters. They lose a star quarterback, who another guy's projected as a potential first-round pick, off to Indiana. Jaden Lott, their star running back, went to Oklahoma. They replaced their entire secondary. And if you're looking for a game where you can really get a feel for what this Oregon State team is, we're going to find out of the gate. Cal's replacing everybody. Oregon State's replacing a lot in the trenches. If Oregon State can beat Cal this weekend, that's one of their toughest 4 games. If you beat Cal, Fresno State lost 31-7 to Kansas in week 1. You feel pretty good about that one. Then you've got Texas Tech and Oregon. Those are tough. And then again, the road gets real smooth other than your 2 games against Washington State. If you beat Cal, there's a realistic shot to win 7, 8, 9 games this year if you're an Oregon State team. This is a really big one out of the gate.
Hold on. I think I only got like a minute left with you. What's that Washington State thing? What's your thoughts on that Washington State? This Pac-2 is kind of interesting.
It's going to be fascinating. I think Washington State, it's tough anytime you lose Cam Ward and John Mateer. John Mateer, we keep talking about first-round quarterbacks. I didn't expect to do a first-round quarterback discussion with you, but John Mateer's yet another guy who could be a first-round pick or that people think is really special. He's at Oklahoma. They lost Cam Ward. You replace 2 elite quarterbacks like that, it's really tough to rebuild. I think probably this series is a split, but I would, in terms of program health, I think right now Oregon State's at a little bit better spot. I love Malik Murphy. I love Hankerson. I like the receivers on the outside, even with Darius Clemens out for the year with the torn Achilles. We certainly wish him a speedy recovery. Again, it's going to come down to the trenches. Oregon's defensive line, 7 sacks all of last year. That's got to double or more. And if the offensive line can block, this Oregon State team's got a chance to be a lot better than people think.
Andrew Nemac, co-host of the West Coast Bias and also Prep Zone reporter at Redzone, folks. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Andrew Nemac, and make sure to follow his partner because he isn't on right now, but he'll be on with us next week. Andrew, I appreciate you for joining us, brother.
Of course. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And coming up.